Welcome to another World of Warcraft video. Today we're going to be going over the original World of Warcraft FanSite Closed Beta Access Part 1. Now, back in the day, 2003, I used to run a website with my wife and family called onlywow.com, and we were the first RP PvP fan site out there, and we were actually the largest at the time too. And we became an official Blizzard fan site on their fan site list with this website, and we got into the original World of Warcraft fan site only closed beta, and that was at the end of 2003, beginning of 2004. We're going to be going over here showing a bunch of really old screenshots, I guess, with the story behind them, about what they're about, what it was, whatever, at that time, how things were in the game. It was a very, very different game, and to experience it at that point was just amazing. Like nothing anyone's ever seen. Before this was like Ultima Online, Dark Age of Camelot, and EverQuest, things like that. And World of Warcraft, the developers took the idea of EverQuest and ran with it and made it more accessible, which is why it's so highly successful, because the game is accessible to anyone, no matter what your playstyle is. So this is actually the first time ever you go to install the game for World of Warcraft. And this is a screenshot that I had taken. You see the little watermark at the bottom says OW, which is, for us, any of our screenshots get out there. This is the original World of Warcraft beta website. If you look down at the bottom, it says a few fan sites, onlywow.com, which is us. In the top right, there's server status, world server up, players online, 551. Funny note here, before they opened up the quote-unquote closed beta into a wider audience beyond friends and family and fan sites, right before they did that, they were trolling players, saying, players online said everyone but you, which is pretty funny, and I can't seem to find the screenshot to that one, which really, really sucks, because it was pretty funny. Everything you needed was on their website. They weren't going with actual official forums or anything, which is why we were like the #1 site, because they didn't have one. Then they started with this once open beta rolled around. This was the install, and this was the alliance. If you read it, this is the alliance push. So when we first got into the beta, it was pretty early on, so we were only testing one faction at a time. So it was at this point that we're testing all of the just the alliance stuff before they opened it up to all the races and classes and all that. Prior to this install, we were at the end of 2003. So this was the newest push they gave it. There was like a month and a half, 2 months in between that one and this one, so this was the newest push. This is the Undercity at night, flying by. Again, like I have a lot of screenshots that I do have are of the landscapes. Even then, 2003, 2004, this was amazing. Like, and they still have really nice shots, like the landscape. No one does landscape like Blizzard. You can look at a screenshot without any context whatsoever and know that it's from World of Warcraft. Their world building is pretty great. So, and it's easily recognizable. But yeah, this is the Undercity at night. Right here is the first time we got to play Horde. This is actually my wife's character. She had a Tauren Druid. And the funny thing about that is, in this stage of the game, Tauren didn't have mounts. They had planes running. So what would happen is, and it wasn't something you turn on and off. Basically, the longer you ran, the faster you would go until you were up to like mount speed. So you would take, it was really inconvenient, because if you're trying to run towards like run towards a cliff or something like that, or a mountainside or whatever, and then it kicks in, you end up running straight off and to your own death. So yeah, planes running was not good. Gave a lot of feedback on that to get that out of the game as fast as possible. That actually made it in pretty close to launch, if I recall correctly. It might have even been in the beginning of launch. And then they gave us Kodos for the Tauren, which was, definitely a wise move. And there she is again. The character name was Redclaw. This is a screenshot from her computer and she sent. This is why it's from her perspective. This is in Desolus. This was in early 2004. But it's interesting to see how the graphics were so drastically different from then till now. And this is her and I. At this point, we were only allowed to play humans and night elves, because this was the very, very beginning when we first got in. So we did both, but this is one of the few times I've actually played night elf. So that's me within Keteressa. That was my wife's character. Yeah, this was literally 2 minutes, not even, after logging into the game for the very, very first time with our fresh, brand new, first ever characters. And here is me on my human mage flying towards Ironforge. To this day, this is still a stunning image. The computer I was using at the time was crap. It was absolute garbage. But this still looked fantastic. I mean, they made it so it would run on a wide variety of machines, and I was nowhere near optimal running this thing on that machine. And this was the unoptimized version of the game too. It's like I said, it's the early FanSite only closed beta. So we were playing with the other couple of FanSites and Blizzard with their friends and family stuff. I think I have an Alliance character just so I can kind of fly around and see things like this. I love snowy areas and games for some reason. I think it's flying from Stormwind. I don't know. All I know is this looks like Elwood Forest or whatever the hell it's called, near Goldshire. Flying on the Griffin. This was before they didn't even before they had armor on the flight path mounts. Some of the lighting and shadow was in, but it was not even close to being optimized. Human mage flying again on the taxi. This is a flying by Searing Gorge, Blasted Lands type area. I really can't remember, but this is flying by a high-end Horde NPC complex there. It was the first time I, got to see anything like that because we weren't allowed to play Horde right away. They were still working on a lot of that stuff there because Horde was the second thing they worked on. They worked on the Alliance first, which is why when the game launched, honestly, the Alliance zones were far more polished and the quests and everything was just done a lot better. Horde, there was definitely a lot lacking there in those first few months during the first few patch cycles, and they started kind of bringing things up to par because it got to the point where they needed to release. Regardless, they're doing their own game, but they still had a launch window. This is first ever Dwarf Mage or Dwarf Paladin, as you can tell by that big ass hammer. I was really happy when they finally opened up dwarves because I prefer, if I have to play Alliance for any amount of time, I would just prefer to play a dwarf because they're as close to orcs as you're going to get. I mean, they are from Warhammer, they are the mortal enemies of the greenskins and all that. And that's kind of where I pull all my fantasy from. So, I always had a soft spot for dwarfs. And I believe this is one of the other staff members on the website, Scrub the Squasher. Here's Scrub in combat. I don't know who that female gnome is. All I know is that he's swinging at this bear, and it's a really great action shot. When we post this shot on the fan site, people absolutely loved it, But again, it's just really funny to see how the graphics changed over time and all that. And the interesting part is even the landscape, while it remained mostly the same between then and now, but they've been slowly but surely adding higher res graphics to even the landscape and all that. Here is on the way to Blackrock Spire, Blackrock Depths, upper and lower. I believe that's a dwarf and a gnome. It looks like the same thing, but this was phenomenal back then. This was amazing, the lighting and all that, and how all the lighting worked with the shadows, and they really knew how to set the mood for all the different zones. And the thing is, all the zone transitions were seamless because there wasn't much in the way of loading screens, really. Once you're on that one continent, you're not going to run into any loading screens from the top of the continent all the way to the bottom. It's when you change continents that you'll hit a loading screen, or if you Perth out. Everything was seamless, and all of the geography and all of the scenery and the ground and everything had to blend into each other, and so it wasn't this abrupt, jarring change. And here's Scrub flying out of Ironforge. No armor on the Griffins whatsoever. And the Griffins looked a lot different back then too. I mean, they're pretty decent texture-wise back then. But if you look at the Griffin taxis, even the Horde ones, look at them now. Even the original ones, they just still look a little bit different. But it's interesting how fly in the older areas, then fly in each expansion using the taxis, and you'll see even those get. You can tell kind of what expansion you're in by how the taxis even look, which is kind of funny. But this was amazing and innovative, and just a whole seamless world thing. It wasn't done to this magnitude. This took EverQuest and everything else before it and brought it up a whole new level. Here's the first time I ever saw Stormwind. This is when you first walk through the gates. There's somebody Looks like somebody flying in to there. And that's another thing. Like, it was always really interesting as you're flying over. Everyone's always looking at themselves when they're flying. A lot of times I would look down and see what's going on below. And at this point in the game, if you were flying over people that were fighting, you'd be able to hear the battle below you, so you can pan your camera and see the people fighting below you, which was really, really neat. I know because the game became so popular so fast, so many people, they had to really optimize things and get it to run better. So things like that they kind of took away, and they made it so you can see people as you're flying by, even on other mounts flying by or whatever, but you won't hear any of the combat or anything like that if you're just in a taxi, if you're a certain distance. Like, it's kind of lame. But yeah, this is the gates of Stormwind. First time I ever saw this was it's just this big sprawling walled off castle I saw. I didn't know you walk through those gates and it's this huge massive city. It was just so amazing and put together so well. Even when Cataclysm came out, and I was like heartbroken at the damage Stormwind took, and I don't even play Alliance. I can't stand Alliance. But I think the reason why I can't stand Alliance is because I was forced to play it so much during the FanSite closed beta. I just hated doing it. It was annoying. I got up to the 20s before they enabled Horde, and I just went Horde and never looked back. But yeah, man, the first time seeing Stormwind, this was just awesome. And here we are, my wife and I on our human mages. Right outside Stormwind is like a little off to the right. You go there and it's just near one of the little houses that's near there. But it's really funny, if you look at the graphics, you look close enough, you look at my human mage, he looks cross-eyed. So yeah, there were interesting bugs like that back then. He was pretty doofy looking. But a lot of the upgraded higher res faces that they have today for the human males, I don't know, they're pretty rough looking. They're not really much of an upgrade from Cross-Eyed McGee over here. And this is the last shot for this video. Flying out of Booty Bay on my human mage, going by the order that all these were in my folder when I found them all. This was one of the last shots I took as my human. Stranglethorn, special note, was horrific back in the FanSite closed beta. There was one graveyard right outside Booty Bay, and no matter where you were in Stranglethorn, if you're at the very top of Stranglethorn and you died, you'd have to run from the very bottom all the way back up to get to your body at the very top. It wasn't until the open beta, halfway through the open beta, that they put in other graveyards in this area. It was absolutely ridiculous. Dying was just so horrible during this time. Like, it was one of the things that really frustrated me too, to playing humans. For whatever reason, I just connected that to playing Alliance, so it really tainted my desire to play anything on the Alliance side. I did have a dwarf in a couple months ago, ended up deleting him once I got to 34 or so. I just couldn't do it. But this is it for now. I have part 2, which has, some more screenshots, and I found some video from early on, after launch and stuff like that, and some video during beta. I even found video when we were waiting with our characters in Orgrimmar for the beta to wind down. They gave us this big countdown, and I have video of that, so I'll put that in next time too. But that's it for now. It was a really great experience, and I always loved beta testing. I love testing and giving feedback. It's really interesting to see how far the game's come from these, for all intents and purposes, they're really blocky, polygonal-looking characters. The hands were, huge, It was a very stylized kind of art direction, but, it still looked great. We used to make jokes back during this when it opened up to Horde, how Orgrimmar looked a lot like the Flintstones with the color palette and how it was done, so they did mute them a bit when it went to open beta, when there was more access for more people, and it still kind of looked a little more cartoony. But it's really great to find these things and look back and see the difference in the game then to now. It's just really wild. And so I hope you like this. If you did, awesome. Give a like, give a share. If you didn't, you can I guess you didn't, so downvote it or whatever. But either way, I'm trying to build this channel up here, so just give us a subscribe, hit that bell so you get more videos. I'm going to try and do a lot more WoW videos. Once I get a foothold in Battle for Azeroth, I will be posting videos of that too. So just keep coming back. If you look at the rest of my channel, that'd be great. Hit up my Patreon, that'd be even better. So thanks a lot, and see you next time.